This episode of the show is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free 30-day trial and free audiobook of your choosing by going to audibletrial.com/missspots. Choose from over 180,000 different titles, such as Chris Jericho's latest book, No is a 4-letter word. It's even narrated by the man himself. Audiobooks are perfect for the person on the move. Believe me, they're great. Maybe you want a mystery novel or a biography of someone you love. Audible has it all. Plus, it's free to try. If you don't like it, which would be weird, cancel and keep your free audiobook that you downloaded forever. Go try it now at audibletrial.com/missspots. Audible. Listening is the new reading.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Welcome back to the Missspots podcast on missspots.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, and Geek Life Radio. My name is Mike, and with me, as always, is the Shinsuke Nakamura to my AJ Styles. Here's Kevin.
Yes, Shinsuke Nakamura, or I like to call him the first good Royal Rumble winner in like 15 years.
Yeah, definitely in the last 5 or so.
I was exaggerating a little bit for effect, Mike.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yes. So we had big weekend for wrestling, big 4 days of wrestling that we got to go over. So we're not going to waste too much time here. So let's jump right into talking about NXT Takeover Philadelphia from this past Saturday. This had an additional match was added on after we did our show, I think. Because we didn't talk about Velveteen Dream and Cassius Ohno.
No, that was added on afterwards.
Yeah, so the show kicked off with the Tag Team Championship. Undisputed Era's Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly defending against the Authors of Pain. This was a good match to me, and an interesting one, too, because I think by the end of the match, the Authors of Pain were the ones being cheered by the crowd. Undisputed Era is loved by the smart crowd, by the smart fans, and they certainly got a good pop when they came out. But by the end, the hot tag for the Authors of Pain got a pretty big pop, and they were being cheered pretty heavily during the later half of the match.
Well, that is the way that they set the match up. I mean, you had Akama Razor playing face in peril, so that's going to be the. And not only that, but Authors of Pain team with Roderick Strong at the War Games.
Yeah,
that's a babyface combination. So they've been moving in that direction for a while now.
Yes, and there's a good match. Undisputed Era retains after what looked like a botchy finish. Actually, I believe was the plan. The Authors of Pain went for the Super Collider, and O'Reilly, after I can't remember if it was Akam or Razor, had him up. It appeared like he didn't hold on to him very well and was about to drop him, and O'Reilly hit a Hurricanrana on him and then sent him out of the ring, a roll-up on the other one, and a retaining or a title defense for the Undisputed Era.
I mean, this makes sense. The Undisputed Era is one of the bigger things going on in NXT right now, and the Authors of Pain, they're not a fully finished product by any means, and I really don't know where they fit on the main roster at this point. They're not the kind of guys that can consistently go out there and be the workhorses. The tag team division is not, on either Raw or SmackDown, aren't exactly deep, but they are top heavy in a lot of ways. So you've got on SmackDown, you've already got the Bludgeon Brothers up there basically doing the same shtick. And you've got the Usos, and you still have the New Day around there. You have Rusev Day. I don't see them fitting in there right now. And on Raw, you've still got the Bar, and you've got the Revival, you've got the Good Brothers. So I don't know where they fit there, and I don't know if they're the WWE, the main roster crowd, does not give them the license to get over like the NXT crowd does.
This was followed up with the match that I mentioned got added late. Velveteen Dream taking on Cassius Ohno. Dream gets the win after a pretty nice little match between these two. I mean, we talked about this before. Cassius Ohno is pretty much there to help enhance guys at this point in time.
To a certain degree.
Yes. I mean, he's not being squashed by any stretch of the imagination, but he is a solid hand who you can always rely on to help put on a good match, can lead younger guys in matches, and can make people look credible in the ring. And I think that mission accomplished with this particular match.
Yeah, it's exactly what we'd expected. If we had known about this match, we would have predicted that exact outcome, because there'd be no reason to go the other way with it.
Mm-hmm. And then the women's championship took place. Ember Moon against Shayna Baszler, which I apologize. I think I called her Blazer every single time last week when we went over the preview. And this was the weak match of the show. Baszler, her selling, I'm not completely sold on, for no pun intended. She just looks... She looks like she is acting when she is selling some of the times. It doesn't look natural to her just yet. I know that she's still somewhat new to wrestling. She's been doing it for a few years now, but that bothered me a little bit. The end came as she had Ember Moon in a armbar for a very long time on a couple occasions. And eventually Moon countered into a roll-up and put all her body weight on top of Shayna to get the pin. But after the match, she was Ember Moon was attacked on the outside, was choked out, and then put the choke back on again. So these two women are far from finished at this point.
Yeah, Ember is the standard bearer right now in that division. There's definitely some other really talented people like Peyton Royce, Billie Kay. They're still around, but she's the flag bearer there, and they're trusting her to break in a newer talent and help to get her over.
Mm-hmm. And then we had the Extreme Rules match between Adam Cole and Aleister Black, and these two guys beat the living hell out of one another for over 20 minutes. A little slow starting, and then a lot of teasing with the weapons, and then eventually everything that got teased got used. And we had some vicious bumps. Aleister Black falling off the top rope to the outside through a couple tables. Adam Cole getting double knees through the announce table. Kendo sticks, chairs. Oh, Adam Cole ate a Death Valley driver on the chairs back to back at one point that looked sick. And after beating each other up for a long time, Aleister Black hits the Black Mass, gets the pin. I think that was our lone difference in that, and you ended up picking that one right.
So you're obviously surprised by that.
No.
You weren't surprised by it?
I like I said, I thought it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by it. It went the opposite way in that particular match, and I don't think that it was the wrong thing to do either.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think it was the right move?
Yeah, I think that with the result then of the main event, that Aleister is certainly being put up to be the next challenger for WrestleMania weekend. Yeah,
which I think is going to be really, really good. Now, obviously, I think him and Almas will put on a really, really good match. This is the first time that NXT has done this Extreme Rules style thing. I mean, other than War Games, this is the first time we've really seen that kind of violence and weapon use. I hope they use it sporadically. I hope this is not a regular thing. And you had mentioned that this did not seem like a feud that kind of merited all that kind of weaponry, but apparently it was a good match.
Yeah, it really was. And then we had the main event. People have been talking about this since then. Andre Cien Almas defending against Johnny Gargano. And, I mean, from the start, the entrances, Cien came out with his old La Sombra mask on and a mariachi band playing him out. And Johnny came out with the crowd with a whole bunch of signs of his little face logo. I mean, this had big match feel written all over it from the entrances. And this was, I mean, I heard people say this was the best match in NXT history. I don't know if I necessarily can agree with it yet because I can't really remember some matches, but this was an excellent match, top to bottom. They went over 30 minutes. You had some fantastic near falls in the last 10 minutes. And even me with knowing the result before I watched this, because I didn't watch it on Saturday, I even was on the edge of my seat at certain points. You got Zelina got involved as she normally does, but got chased off by Candice LeRae, Johnny's wife, and it had all the drama that you would think from that we're going to anticipate from AJ and Nakamura. And if anyone has doubted Almas's ability to carry a show up until now, that should be gone.
Well, that's probably one of the biggest pleasant surprises here. I have not been able to watch NXT TakeOver yet. Been a little bit busy and with some other things, but that's the thing the most exciting for me, just reading the results and hearing the buzz around this match, because this was a surprise that they put the title on Almas in the first place. It seemed misplaced. It seemed like a transitional champion situation. And for him to be delivering like this has got to make, because apparently Triple H is very high on him, and it's got to make him very, very happy. And not only did he do that, but he showed up in the Royal Rumble the next night and was given an elimination, I believe. I think he did have one elimination, but he stuck around for a while. So it was a good sign. It's a good sign for him, and for a guy who was doing nothing when he debuted, whether in suspenders and a hat and smiling to the crowd, to what he's become here is just it's incredible. Yeah,
it really is. And then the big storyline then coming out of this was after the match, with Johnny and Candice working their way back up the ramp and turning around and looking at the crowd. Tommaso Ciampa comes out behind him and nails him with his crutch, and then just stares down his fallen former teammate with a glazed look on his face, like the psychopath that he's playing. Still in a knee brace, still limping a little bit, so probably not yet 100%, but keeping that story going the best that they can.
Yeah, which is great, and what they kind of have to do. And I've heard conflicting things about him not being ready for up to 2 more months. So who knows when this is actually going to get the chance to fire off. We're probably going to need to see Gargano with somebody else for another month or so until this can actually happen. But I did just want to go back real quick to the Almas thing. You realize that if Almas had debuted on the main roster, they would have kept him under a mask, right? And made him try to fly around as a quote-unquote luchador. Well, when I say that, like the WWE's representation of a luchador.
Like Sin Cara.
Yeah. Or they would have done the exact same thing with the smiling babyface with suspenders and just stuck with it. They would not have rolled with the punches. They would not have seen that it wasn't working and changed it. They would have just tried to shove it down our throats like they've done with everybody else, and he never would have gotten over, and he would have been out of the company already. Mm-hmm. In NXT, they see what's working and what's not. They switch gears, and they have a killer heel on their hands.
They've been so good. I mean, we're preaching to the choir for anyone listening here, probably, with pivoting on people when something doesn't work. They showed the ability to do that with Baron Corbin a number of years ago. They can see weaknesses and see strengths so quickly. The people who are working with them every day, and just help them change it up and get good.
Make the best version of themselves.
Yeah. So I thought this was a really good takeover show. Despite the women's match, I was really having a good time watching it.
Excellent.
I would give it an A. Now heading into Royal Rumble. Listening to us last week, we weren't very much looking forward to it. And just before we get into it, did it exceed expectations?
I was pleasantly surprised by most of this card. Mm-hmm. I thought that both Rumble matches were... The men's Rumble match was pretty good, and the outcome and the way that it played out was better. It wasn't the best Rumble match of all time, but it exceeded my expectations. And the women's match exceeded my expectations with a few caveats of things that really frustrated me that I'm sure we'll talk about here. But overall, this was a better pay-per-view than I was hoping for, which is great.
So we had 3 pre-show matches. First, we had their cruiserweight six-man match with Kalisto, Gran Metalik, and Lince Dorado defeating TJP, who we haven't seen in a long time, Gentleman Jack Gallagher, and Drew Gulak. They got some time on this one, but it just didn't have any meaning. I mean, really, the whole Enzo thing has thrown this whole division for a loop.
And they could have done something with it there, but they chose not to, and they're hopefully going to address that on 205 Live on Tuesday night.
Yeah. And this was then followed up with a tag team match with the Revival taking on the Good Brothers, a rematch from Monday night where they got squashed pretty much in a couple minutes in the Manhattan Center. And as 50-50 booking will have it, the Revival win this one, and with WWE's mindset, see, they're fine. Yeah. They won this time.
Sure.
And lastly, we had Bobby Roode defending the U.S. title in a U.S. Open challenge, and the person to accept was Mojo Rawley. And we, of course, get Bobby Roode winning, retaining in a few minutes.
When you hear some of the proposals, which were possibly Ziggler coming back, which wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever, or possibly Adam Cole being the one to accept the challenge, that either one still would have been a better... I would actually, I shouldn't say that. I would not have liked Ziggler coming back to do it, because once again, it wouldn't have made sense in storyline. It would have been nice to see a little more of a surprise. I would even have done something with the Pandery thing with a ex-superstar or something, because it would have at least kind of got the crowd into it kind of thing, where Mojo is that's not exciting. It's not something that...
No.
I like the fact that he's buying into his character and he's trying. This is the best version we've ever seen of Mojo Rawley, but it's still Mojo Rawley.
Yes, absolutely. And then the main show kicked off with the WWE Championship match. AJ Styles against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The heels have to tag in, so it works like a tag team match on their behalf. And we got a screwy finish to this one with a point where AJ grabbed Sammy, who was trying to tag in, and that you had that just reaching, and never quite made it, but Kevin came in anyway and ended up eating the pinfall, but Sammy was still the legal guy. The whole replay didn't help things by showing that Mike Chioda wasn't even looking when the not tag happened, so he just declared it a tag. It was really wonky, and I wish to say that this was the first time that something wonky has happened between AJ Styles and Kevin Owens.
Finish aside, this was a well done two-on-one match, I think. As far as handicaps matches go, this actually had a pretty good layout to it. I did love the tags, the frequent early tags from Kevin and Sammy. I thought it was really antagonizing to the crowd, and I thought it was good. It was just another setup to have yet another little piece of this puzzle with trying to get Kevin and Sammy another title match that we saw played out in SmackDown. But overall, it's the... For what the setup was to this, I think that they functioned it as best they possibly could, and I'm just excited to have AJ away from Kevin Owens specifically for a while, hopefully, at the end of the next week or so.
Yeah. Well, it would be in another month or so.
Oh, because the winner is going to get the shot at Fastlane. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to see... I love Kevin Owens. I am not excited to see Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles again.
Yeah. And also, I think that then the next match was poorly placed right after this match because it was the tag team title match from SmackDown. So the Usos against Gable and Benjamin, who are playing off a very similar storyline in which Gable and Benjamin won the tag team titles by pinning the wrong Uso, and they used instant replay and the referee to reverse that decision right after this match before it had the same thing.
The WWE should never, ever use instant replay in a storyline because it makes it all look foolish when they don't use the instant replay.
Yeah.
It's just, it lessens the product. You either have to make it consistent, which they'll never do because then it books them in a corner so often, or you have to ignore it completely, which is a little ridiculous in this day and age, but at least it can be an internally consistent idea.
Yeah. And surprisingly, in this match, 2 out of 3 falls. We had the Usos going over. That's not the surprising part, but winning 2 falls to none.
I saw so many people frustrated and pissed off about this. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And I thought it was
great. They rarely do it.
Well, first of all, the first fall went a while. It took a while before that first fall happened, and there were some kicks out of finishers. They played up the technical, exciting portion of this match all through the first fall, and the second fall came almost immediately afterwards in a roll-up kind of situation. But when you do this, when you're willing to sit here and do 2 straight falls for somebody, it makes you actually want to pay attention to the first 2 falls of the next 2 out of 3 falls match. Mm-hmm. Instead of just going, well, they won this one, so now they're going to win this one. We should see this more often. It would happen naturally if this was all real. So I loved it. I thought it was great. And, I am a little disappointed because I think very, very highly of Chad Gable specifically. And I would have... Not everyone needs to have a run at the top. Not everyone needs to have those titles. They seem to be moving off into a feud possibly with Breezango, Gable, and Benjamin. The Usos are the better team. They're the more interesting team. They're the better team to hold those titles. I'm fine. Overall, this was great. This seemed like to me, the way this whole thing was booked, was booked like someone booked it from NXT. You had challengers. They came up. There was some wonky stuff. They got another rematch. They lost twice, and they're out of the picture now. And we got something else coming up. I like it.
Yeah. And then in a big surprise, I think to most people, we had the Men's Royal Rumble next.
Huge surprise to do it that early in the night.
Yeah, third match in, and we had a nice long Royal Rumble, over an hour through it. We had some surprises, including, as we mentioned before, Andrade Cien Almas from NXT, Adam Cole from NXT. We got the Hurricane coming in, and also Rey Mysterio with a big surprise entrance into this. But at the end of it all, Shinsuke Nakamura ends up as the winner of the Royal Rumble. We both picked him. And
I picked him hoping and thinking he was the only real logical choice but also thinking it could easily go in a different direction. So we were both thrilled. We kind of both leapt up off the couch when this happened and cheered, because when it comes down to Shinsuke Nakamura and Roman Reigns, it's almost always good to bet on Roman Reigns. And the fact that he was able to eliminate him in a clean and effective manner is wonderful. It's great for Shinsuke. It's great for the match that we're hopefully going to see between him and AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Overall, well-booked Rumble. Not the middle portions got a little dead, got a little boring. We just kind of naturally see that. Bizarre to have Dolph Ziggler show up. I don't understand why he was there. He showed up at number 30. He walked away from the company, left his U.S. title that he had just won, and leaves. And then he just shows up at the Royal Rumble for a world title opportunity. Is he still working for SmackDown? Is he not? It wasn't a rest on Raw or SmackDown this week. It seemed like one of those things that was supposed to be a big deal, but no one understands what's going on. What was Dolph's motivation in the first place? This isn't CM Punk leaving for like 2 weeks with the title years ago, right? Yeah. Which they pulled the trigger on him coming back way too soon anyway. But there's no real motivation. We don't know what's going on. It hasn't been teased in the show. It's an incomplete story that they're telling, if they're even trying to tell a story at all. Mm-hmm. So there were some bizarre things there that I wasn't a huge fan of. I am so sick and tired of Kofi Kingston. If you can just be thrown out of the Rumble and land on one foot and then just hop back in, why don't everyone should just do that?
Yeah.
I think it's just so silly. In watching someone, we had it twice in the women's and the men's, where him and Naomi both get eliminated, but they don't. They get back in and are immediately eliminated. Yeah. It's just so annoying when that happens.
And afterwards, Nakamura was interviewed and asked which champion he was going to challenge for the title, and he straight up went with AJ Styles, staying along with his brand and giving us the match that we've been hoping to have.
Well, we certainly knew he was not challenging Brock Lesnar, so this was kind of anticlimactic.
But it was still fun to see. And
what do you think about Finn being kind of the Iron Man?
I was just going to say we got to see Finn in there for nearly an hour, almost 58 minutes. I thought that was a good sign for him, that they trusted him to be in there from the beginning to the top four. So I thought that was nice, and I thought he did a good job in there. It was great to see Nakamura eliminate both John Cena and Roman Reigns.
They at least took the temperature of the crowd, and we knew who they were for. They also were hugely for Rusev.
Yes.
And Rusev came out, I believe, number 1 or 2.
He was 1, yeah.
And he lasted for a while. There were huge crowds, huge chants, and now Rusev is challenging for the United States Championship next week on SmackDown. It looks like they're listening. I don't know. Something's happening. It seems like we're seeing them going in a direction that seems to be taking into account the crowd reactions in the last week or so. I don't ever know how to feel about that. I almost feel like that they're lulling us into a false sense of security.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, Finn and Roman Reigns tied for the most eliminations with 4 apiece.
Okay.
And after that, we had the Raw Tag Team Championship match with Seth and Jordan taking on Cesaro and Sheamus. And I thought this was a good match and told a good story, at least.
This was not a match. This was an angle.
Yes.
Right? So this was not...
Good point there.
Yeah. So this was coming off the Rumble, right? The crowd is already burnt out, basically.
And 3 of these guys were in the Rumble.
Right. So this entire thing was just Jordan took a post early on the outside, never really got into the match other than a tag in and a quick tag out. He wasn't there. Seth Rollins ends up taking the pinfall loss, valiantly fighting basically 1-on-2. Throughout the whole match to set up something between the two of them, but we didn't see anything on Raw about this at all, which is very surprising that we're not following up on what could be possibly a hot angle. But this was an angle. This was not a match. People that are frustrated looking for a match, sometimes these work. Not every match has to be 5 stars. to further something else going along, get the titles back onto a true tag team that deserves it, I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was fine in that sense, and you make a great point of calling it an angle more so than a match.
If they would have went out and done a 5-star classic, the crowd would have been sitting on their hands the whole time anyway, because they need a little bit of come down.
They absolutely did. And then we got the triple threat match for the Universal Championship, which told us, oh, they're going to put the Women's Rumble on last.
Really cool to see that.
But Brock, Kane, Strowman, it was there. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that this was that great. I mean, the biggest point of it was when Braun accidentally really kneed Brock in the head, and then Brock responded with a punch to the face.
Straight, stiff punch to the face. Well, it gave it that real fight feel that it probably wasn't meant to have those two things happen, but it certainly did. There was nothing this match could do to meet the expectation that the WWE wanted the fans to have for it, because Kane was involved, and you have to protect guys like Brock and Braun. Were some of the chair spots or whatever, did some of it look brutal? Did some of it look intense? Sure. Overall, was this anything that anyone's going to remember 6 months from now and care about? Not at all. This was holding pattern stuff across the board.
Yeah. It was, I would go with that. And then, main event, Women's Royal Rumble. And we got Asuka winning this one. She was who we thought she was. We got a lot more surprises in this because we know they don't have as many women on the roster. And we got a couple NXT women, Kairi Sane, Ember Moon. I like the idea of having the champions from NXT being in the Royal Rumble. I feel like that should just be an actual rule.
Well, I loved both Ember Moon and Adam Cole selling with bandages and stuff from their matches the night before. That was great. Ember Moon basically fought with one arm, selling her ass off on that, which I thought was great. My only real problems with this match were the amount of times that people bailed to the floor.
Yes.
I hate this. I know it all comes down to being aesthetically pleasing. So they want to run something in the ring and they don't want a bunch of bodies littering the ground to do it, so they have people bail out. But it is so... It frustrates me. I don't... Maybe I'm just a sucker for the old Battle Royals, just having so many bodies in there and being fine with it. It's punch and kick fest all you want. As long as you have some fat rapid-fire elimination and set some angles up and have confrontations we're interested in, it works. But when you don't even know who's in the match anymore because someone's bailed out to the outside of the ring and sat there for 5 minutes, not even because of a big... When Roman took a table bump from the League of, what I used to always call them, the League of Directionless Mid-Card Heels.
Yes.
That I used to call them all the time. I wish it would have been much better if I would have got that immediately. When he took that power bomb and was out, through a table, and at least there was a reason for him to be on the outside for a while. When Molly Holly gets knocked over by Nia Jax or someone and bails to the outside for 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, she's still there? Did we miss an elimination? It's hard to follow. I don't like that at all.
It absolutely
There was so much of that going on because they were just trying to feature Michelle McCool and Trish Stratus and all this.
Michelle McCool had the most amount of eliminations.
My second problem is the fact that they featured so heavily with the women of yesteryear. I think it took away from the women of today. And I think that they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't in this situation, because they really want to have as many of those people because they're going to get the loud pops. It's going to really make the crowd that gets to watch that happy. It also is a great nod to them who never got a chance to participate in this match. So it wasn't a cardinal sin, but there was just a little too much of it. I would have enjoyed more with the women of today.
Yeah.
And maybe even had 2 or 3 more NXT women and not have so many past stars.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be splitting hairs. Overall, pretty well done. Asuka winning was the absolute right move with that. Her eliminating basically the Bellas at the very end, I wasn't a big fan of that as well, because no matter what, they may be popular, but these are part-timers at the best and
Well,
non-wrestlers.
Nikki eliminated Brie.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, being down to them, I thought
Yeah.
it would have been better with Sasha at the end of that. It would have been better with Becky at the end of that. It would have been better with somebody that's there. It seems pandery to me. You need to go with who gets you there. Who's going to be there the next week?
Yeah. And afterwards, we got Alexa and Charlotte came into the ring and to try to determine who is going to be the one that gets challenged.
We assume because Nakamura announced who he was challenging that she was going to announce who she was challenging, and we didn't get that because
Ronda Rousey came out.
I am excited for the fact of what they can do with a crossover mega star that Ronda Rousey has been. That's exciting. It gets eyes on the product. It gives you a chance to expand your fan base. All great stuff. Showing up who is a legitimate badass in Asuka with an incredible storyline of an undefeated streak going for years almost now was just a very poor choice. To have Ronda Rousey go out there and point at the WrestleMania sign like 6 times awkwardly and just smile, it deflated me completely. This should have been Asuka's time. It should have been who's she going to face and save Ronda Rousey for Raw, where it's on national television. Do that. I was not a fan of this.
I completely get what you mean there. I know what their thought process behind it was to debut her on their, by all intents and purposes, their number 2 show of the year, their number 2 pay-per-view of the year. But yes, it was nearsighted in the idea of you just upstaged your 2 champions and the woman who won your first ever Women's Royal Rumble at the same time.
Yeah.
And all of that for what is rumored to be a match with Stephanie and Triple H and her and The Rock. So once again, Stephanie is more important than all of the other women.
But I don't think it means it's all she's going to do. I believe that she's going to be a full-time talent.
Well, that is the report, but the match that they're building up to for Mania is her facing the person who was on commentary poorly at that.
This could have been done. They could have done all of this, but a little bit better.
Yeah.
They could have had Asuka maybe choose the person she wanted to face. If they wanted to hold off on that, you could have had a stare down, and then you could have had Ronda Rousey be just her music play. She stands on the stage and then go off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been even more effective because then, I want to know what happens. I got to tune into Raw the next night. And what are all these pieces? How are these going to fall together? But the way they did it was definitely upstaged. I felt that way. Yeah. I felt that they were definitely saying that this person's more important than these 3 people, and you need to know that. That's the way it felt to me.
I get that. So that does it for the Royal Rumble. What kind of grade would you give this?
I liked this show, even though I didn't like pieces of it. I'm going to give it a B+. I thought it was a pretty good show, and I was just so pleasantly surprised by the outcomes. That's what I really enjoyed, and I like the fact that it seems like the WWE's listening. Maybe they're not, but it seems like they went with what the fans would have liked for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B-. While a lot of the results were fine, I thought there were some issues in there. You brought up a lot of the things with the women's battle royal, but I think it exceeded my expectations of the show greatly.
And that's why I'm giving it such a high grade, because it exceeded my expectations. I was not expecting much, and I found myself entertained and excited on several moments. And any time that a wrestling show can get me to jump out of my seat and cheer for a guy when this is all we know the outcomes are predetermined, that's a good thing. Yeah. So anytime that happens, I get really excited. Do you want to just go into Raw now?
Yeah.
So whole new look to Raw, right? We didn't get a show open. Apparently they've changed the music that I didn't notice, but I had read online. The logo has been a logo they've been using for a while, but they changed the LED boards on the sides of the rings.
New
the
graphics
for the ring entrances, and Booker T is gone when Jonathan Coachman is back. And at the announce desk, are you a fan of this?
Yeah, I mean, we have been very outspoken about our thoughts on Booker T's commentary for a thing that was supposed to only last till the end of last summer,
right?
And has lasted much longer. I mean, not that I was ever a big fan of Coach, but I'm glad for a little bit of a change up there. And he was so-so on commentary. He seemed a little behind on things.
You know, it'll take a while to get into the swing of things. So I'm excited for that, and I like a new look and a fresh feel every now and then. We did get the announcement from Stephanie that we're going to have a all women's elimination chamber match for the world title, for the women's world championship. So that's another first that we're going to get. I love the fact that they're doing this for the women's, but I actually, this is one of those situations where I would be okay with waiting till next year for this. Mm-hmm. And just because rapid firing first as hard as you can is immediately gratifying, but not long term sustainable, right? So I would not have been opposed, even though I'm happy that they're getting the platform to do that, and I hope the match will be good and they have the talent to do it. I would like to see them hold off on that. And the thing that was set up this entire show was we were actually getting, for the men's elimination chamber, we were getting matches to decide who was going to actually be able to enter that elimination chamber. I love this. This is the way it should always work. You should have to wrestle in to get into a match. It's a reason to have a match on TV. It's a reason to have a first time ever with Finn Balor and John Cena. Aces all around. I really like the fact that they were doing this. And I like the people that they put involved for these matches throughout the night.
Yeah. You hit all the nails on the head there. I love that there is stakes for these matches being put together. Because
they so rarely have them. The Braun Strowman and Kane match was the first one, and this was basically a squash. It was a very short match in which Braun did what Braun does. He flipped something over.
Yeah, it was a last man standing match.
It was a last man standing match, and he flipped the entire stage and commentary desk. Part of me thinks that is a reason to move the commentary back down by the ring.
Good call.
It's like they always want to move this thing back and forth all the time. I don't really get it, why this is such a big deal for them. They can't just stick with something, but I just felt like that in a certain way, especially because they made the big thing of, they're erecting an announce desk, and he broke the stage. We no longer, I don't know.
And they kept the stage in the flipped fashion the whole rest of the show.
But this is Kane. They did give some lip service to Kane and refusing medical treatment and sitting up from the gurney and walking out. Kane, this needs to be done with him and Braun, I hope now. And Braun Strowman's in the Elimination Chamber where he should be.
Yeah.
Rightfully, of course. The next match was Elias versus Matt Hardy. Bray has caused a distraction, which leads to Elias getting a victory here. Elias being in the Elimination Chamber, I think it's a really good spot for him. He's been directionless. Now he has at least a shot at a title. That's really, really good. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing for him to be involved in. The Matt Hardy and Bray thing is just spinning its wheels. I have my excitement for this. I don't know if it can be lower, but they find a way to make it lower every single time they interact.
Yeah.
There's nothing new. It's just laughing. Now it is literally just laughing at each other.
Yeah. It started off pretty much with just laughing at one another.
No, at the beginning they were cutting promos. Now they're not even saying words. They're just laughing.
But they would always end them with laughing at one another.
But now they're not even starting with words, Mike, is what I'm trying to say. We've devolved into laughing back and forth as if this is what an angle is. This is not what got Broken Matt over. This is that homogenized, dumbed down WWE version of other things that never works, and Vince can go, you see, it doesn't work on the big stage. That's not it at all. We got our obligatory rematch with Miz and Roman Reigns. Miz wins with a roll up after some interference. That's the long and short of it, right?
They had to come up with some way to. they feel so committed to having to have the automatic rematch thing. They're like, now we got to have Roman lose 2 weeks in a row to Miz.
And it's one of the strange things because they are not committed to anything else. There is no other thing that they feel like they have to be internally consistent on week to week other than an automatic rematch clause. And it's the worst thing. If there's one thing that I want you to ditch, it'd be that, and then make something else consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But Miz still has the title. He got it in more nefarious means, even, I would say, than the previous week, because even though he used a weapon, at least he did it all himself. This was distraction oriented, but now this frees Roman up and it frees Miz up.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we can get them away from each other because they're not doing any good together anyway. The Revival versus Rhino and Slater. The match was the match. Revival won. The Revival got another promo in the ring afterwards,
Ooh.
very similar to the promos that they cut
I
2
love
weeks
this
before,
promo.
and basically saying that this crowd in here is chanting EC Dub and living in the past, and
Trying to get themselves over.
that was the line, trying to get themselves over. This is insider wrestling talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is wrestling talk. And
They asked Charlie if, like, what do you think about the Graham brothers?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who they are.
And of course you wouldn't know who they are. You know, they're playing this throwback tag team. Someone's letting them do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I think you like
Yeah.
it. I'm still pissed off about them getting beat up by DX, but if they're going to keep pushing this, and this is that one-off, it doesn't matter, it's basically a glorified dark segment, then great. Keep this going, and I want to see where it goes. I want to see how far they let these guys go in being this throwback tag team.
Yeah, hopefully the leash has a good bit of length to it.
The match with Sasha and Asuka, they set this up in the first segment. I was not all that excited about this because it seemed like it wasn't really going to, why put this on Raw, right?
Mm-hmm.
This could be done in so many different ways. We did not touch on the fact that at the Royal Rumble, Sasha eliminated Bayley. She also showed some heel mannerisms, but that she kind of fades in and out of in her babyface character anyway, because she is the boss, and that's a cocky character anyway. But there's a good amount of heel in Sasha in the last 48 hours or so.
Yeah.
And stepping up to Asuka felt that way in a lot of ways. This match started off pretty pedestrian, but by the end of it, there were so many brutal shots that looked like they legitimately were going to kill somebody. That kick as Sasha dove to the outside. Sasha almost dies in most of the matches. If a match goes more than 10 minutes, Sasha will almost die.
And usually it's diving out of the ring.
Yeah, she needs to stop doing that. But these brutal spots from Asuka to Sasha, and there was more than one kick, knee, all kinds of things. And then the double knee Sasha gave right back. This was basically booked as a 50-50 match. The finish was excellent. The counters from the bank statement into the Asuka lock, which I love the Asuka lock so much better than the armbar. I'm glad that they actually went back to that. It's strange that they haven't been using it for a while. But the result of this was a pay-per-view quality match.
Yeah.
I wasn't totally invested in the beginning because I thought it was just going to be another pointless match.
Did they go to 2 commercial breaks in that match?
I don't remember, but I was literally phasing in and out because I was like, oh, this is going to be a stupid 50-50 5-minute match with Asuka winning. And by the time I realized that they were actually giving them time, letting him tell a story, I was like, oh, I'm here now. Mm-hmm. And then those brutal spots kind of drew me in. So maybe this is the match. Maybe Sasha ends up with the title, takes it off of Alexa Bliss.
Wow.
I don't know. I just, overall, good for them. They went out and put on a fucking hell of a show.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty great. The Bar versus Titus Worldwide. They let Titus Worldwide look like they were the equals.
Yeah,
of
that
Sheamus and Cesaro.
they belong there.
Yeah. And, it's strange. All you really have to do is go out there and let some people not look like chumps. And sometimes it works.
Who'da thunk it?
It was a long match, and the Bar ended up going over here, but listen, it's going to take a lot more than this to make Titus and Apollo Crews relevant in the eyes of the fans, but I'm okay with it. The tag division could use a shot in the arm, and if they want to give these guys a shot, maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled. I'm not excited. I'm not like, oh, I can't wait to see these guys, all the time.
No, there's people like the Revival who we'd like to see used a little more higher up in the pecking order. But, Yeah, if you're gonna put people on television and you want them to get over, you got to give them that ability to. Like there's no point in anyone being on television if you don't want them to be successful, win, lose, or draw.
At least in their spot.
Yeah, exactly.
They've done nothing to make Titus and Apollo even a R-Truth style over.
No.
They've done nothing for that. So at least maybe this is going in that direction. And then our main event was a pretty good match between John Cena and Finn Balor. This is another one of those first time ever that WWE loves to do. At this point, they're going to be out of first time ever matches by next Thursday, but they're going to keep doing it, God damn it. This was to get into the Elimination Chamber. The interesting parts of this match were John Cena being very uncharacteristic.
Yes, I love that about this match.
Looking at the crowd, almost like apologizing to them for like going over Finn Balor. It was weird. How did you take it?
I really enjoyed this match. I love that almost immediately Cena seemed to be getting irked by the crowd, which Cena never does. Cena's always he's like a duck. It just runs right off his back.
And you know that he's has been doing this for so long, that wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
It's not like Cena was going to get to it. His character was letting him get to it.
And towards the end of the match, I'm like, Finn's going over here. Like, I think Finn's going to beat him, and we're going to start seeing something new and interesting with Cena. Even with Cena going over, I still think if they will continue on this road with Cena maybe doubting himself, doubting the way the fans react to him, this is going to be the most character development we've seen in Cena in a decade.
It's what we've been calling for forever. It's not a full-on heel turn. It's just a tweak in his presentation and giving a storyline to go through. And there's a lot of things they can go. They've teased this before. There's been other points where we've seen different character traits during the Roman Reigns feud for one out of Cena. So I did like this aspect. I feel bad for Finn.
They just can't go back next week to having him cut those, golly gee, I'm going to make jokes.
First of all, they will. So they will. Just so you know, this is not, this was definitely just whatever. They never want to go in on anything that changes John Cena at all. But I feel a little bit, listen, Finn got a chance to get in the ring with Cena and put on a hell of a match and main event and all that good stuff. Finn was used well in the Royal Rumble, but I just don't see where's Finn going for WrestleMania. We got a trajectory for a lot of the big name stars. Finn Balor doesn't have that trajectory towards WrestleMania, so that worries me a bit.
Yeah, that is. So, all in all, I thought this was a pretty good episode of Raw.
I liked a lot of aspects. I liked the change up in imagery. I loved the fact that we had matches to decide who goes to the Elimination Chamber. I liked a lot of this. This was one of the better episodes of Raw. This is one I enjoyed. This wasn't a slog, so I was happy.
Yeah, and then heading into SmackDown Live, we started things off with Nakamura coming out in the ring by himself and a microphone. This was a little scary at first.
It always is.
But he cut a decent little promo just by saying that Sami Zayn got kneed to the face. John Cena got kneed to the face. Roman Reigns got kneed to the face. And I won the Royal Rumble, and I'm going to go to WrestleMania and be the new champion.
That's what they need to do with him.
Short and sweet, to the point. KO and Sami come out, talk about how they were screwed out of their match at the Rumble, and say that Nakamura is going to face them at WrestleMania. And they are about to jump Nakamura, and AJ comes out, proposes a tag team match for later on in the evening with him teaming up with Nakamura against KO and Sami. They walk away, feign coming back just to say nope, and they get punched for their troubles. Bryan does make that match shortly thereafter, but also says that Sami and KO will face each other next week on SmackDown, with the winner going on to face AJ at Fastlane.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. This Sami KO thing with Shane. Like Shane seems to have been shoehorned out of this whole thing. It seems which is fine.
Well, not really. I mean, Sammy and KO went to him at Royal Rumble, so on Sunday night he was still involved in this.
Yeah.
So my question is, are Shane and Daniel Bryan still on the outs? Are they still having problems with one another? So, and Shane alluded to that later on in the evening when he said he wasn't happy that he's giving them another shot when the interaction between Baron Corbin, him, and Ty Dillinger, and he needs to talk to Daniel about it. So I guess there was a seed still planted there for that.
Yeah, I guess so. We had announced that there was going to be a fatal 4-way for number 1 contendership for Bobby Roode's U.S. title, and we got that as our first match of the evening with Jinder taking on Rusev, taking on Zack Ryder for some reason, and Kofi Kingston. And after a lot of shenanigans on the outside, people being ejected from ringside because of pancakes.
Happens all the time.
Yep. Rusev comes out victorious.
This stays right with what I was talking about in the Rumble. Rusev was way over. Rusev Day chants are deafening, so they're giving Rusev a shot to go against Bobby Roode. Rusev is a far more interesting character than Bobby Roode is right now. Mm-hmm. Far more interesting. He would be a better holder of that U.S. title. I don't know that they're going to pull the trigger on that, especially on an episode of Smackdown next week, but good for them. They're taking into account that Rusev is someone that people actually want to see and will invest in. Whether they pull the trigger on it, who knows, but good for them.
Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but the theme of the night was SmackDown couldn't be outdone by Raw having new graphics, so SmackDown decided to add a lot of new graphics with words popping up on the screens at all weird moments throughout the night.
This seemed very. I'm not a big user of social media other than my work, where I have to follow things and put things up and post things. I don't do it for personal benefit. This seemed to me very social media-esque. It seemed a lot of cell phone looking shot videos with graphics overlaid over it. The Uso Penitentiary thing with the door slamming, the very cheap looking cartoon door slamming on the screen graphic. I did not like this.
No, not at all. And honestly, from going through our timeline on Twitter while we were live tweeting, I don't see anyone who liked this. And if that's who it's supposed to be pandering to, you're missing.
I like the handheld video stuff, but you don't have to lay over the words like we're doing a sing-along.
I'm sick of that too. I like it when it's done when they used it for build up towards the Survivor Series, because it was actually used on social media. You had guys actually using their cell phones to record little videos that were then put on social media as promos against their opponents. It works good then. But on a television show, you're trying to make me think with millions of dollars worth of camera equipment and television equipment that someone's going to be holding a cell phone, because no one's cell phone has that good of quality, up to be making a promo. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Then I lost my place here. We actually got an episode of the Fashion Files instead of just a preview, but
it wasn't really a true.
It wasn't a shorter one.
Yeah.
They've been showing clips of the episodes that you can find on the website, and this involved Gable and Benjamin crashing into the Fashion Police's office and challenging them to a match for later on in the evening.
We've been asking them to actually let Breezango wrestle, and we know that we need secondary tag feuds. Maybe this is one.
Yeah.
It was a definitive match outcome where with Gable and I always want to say Jordan, Gable and Benjamin going over.
I have the hardest time when we're tweeting not writing Jordan and Gable.
But hopefully, maybe there are still legs to this, even though the match outcome was definitive.
Mm-hmm. The Usos came out and cut a promo about pretty much beating everyone that there is.
And other than the stupid graphic of a jail cell door locking, it was a great promo.
Yes, it was.
It was actually... It detracted from it so much. If you take that stupid thing off the screen, all of a sudden it becomes a serious, no bullshit, we're badass promo with passion that we don't see very often. And they put, I don't know, it's just a bizarre choice to me.
Yeah, and they made emphasis on the word brothers during that.
Even if they're brothers, nobody can beat us. And then immediately the Bludgeon Brothers are the ones that are going to face a jobber tag team out next. They walk by them without really even looking at them. So, but we know what's going on, so it's obvious what they're alluding to.
And we were talking while we were watching this. These two teams have had some fantastic matches in the past. Back when it was still the Wyatts and the face paint Usos, they had a nice feud that had a 2 out of 3 falls match involved in it, and it was quite good. So looking forward to seeing what they can do together. We get Brian cutting one of those handheld promos, explaining the new top 10 system. This was brought up on social media earlier in the day, and at first thought, we're like, oh, this is great. This an actual ranking system to determine a pecking order for who gets matches for titles. Not exactly. It's a popularity contest within the locker room.
It's just another thing for them to try to get people to interact with. Yeah. It's a social media thing to get people talking. That's what this is all about.
Because even Brian said that him and Shane may use those rankings to help determine matches. When I read the title of the article that was talking about this, I was so thrilled because you and I have been talking about this for a while. You're really the one that has kind of brought this up more than me, about having a ranking system and having this be the reason why you get a title shot, because you move up, you move down, a loss hurts you, a win helps you. This is something that you have talked about that I agree completely. I was like, man, we're getting matches to go into the Elimination Chamber. We're getting matches with consequence. We're going to have a ranking system that's going to tell us who's going to be the next person up and coming. There's all kinds of storylines this opens up. There's all kinds of meaning this opens up. And I was thrilled, and I was like, this is great. This is what I wanted, and we're basically, the new season is starting, right, with like different graphics and stuff. I'm like, this is a good step. And then when I hear what it actually is, I'm like, oh, it's bullshit. Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's a shame, but
WWE, if you want to switch gears and actually make this a ranking system, it will be wonderful for your product.
Yeah.
And doing it just on SmackDown would be perfect because it makes it different from Raw. There's so many good things you can do with this.
I agree with that. And then after this, we had an interaction with Ty and Shane in the back. Baron comes in, and this ends up making a match between the two of them for later on in the evening. Charlotte comes out for an interview with Beetlejuice. Renee Young. Sorry. And she talks about the historic moments from Royal Rumble, and then is interrupted by the Riot Squad. And Ruby Riott cuts a promo that just reeks of the pot calling the kettle black. And then they attack Charlotte. Charlotte clears the ring of them, but then they come back, take advantage of her, knock her out. And Carmella comes out to try to cash in her Money in the Bank briefcase, a thing that most people probably forget that she has. But as she goes to cash it in, you have that abnormally long period where the ref tries to explain to the announcer what is going on, and it takes about a minute. And during this point, Carmella tries to go drop kick Charlotte. She moves, she drop kicks the referee. He goes flying out of the ring, so no actual cash in occurs.
Well, the Riot Squad thing is they're just a dead faction, if you will. I have no interest in them. They don't have anything going. They're not very interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry. I actually thought Ruby cut a good promo. The content wasn't great, but she did a good job with it. And then Carmella, just what is Carmella doing? Why did they give her that briefcase? What was their point? She's uninteresting. She's given no television time to develop anything other than a character, other than the fact that she moonwalks.
They dropped her manager who made her more interesting.
I just don't understand this. And just for the love of God, can we stop with the... Carmella's cashing in the briefcase. What's going on? I've never seen this before. I know it's another one of those things where there's ways to do this without a 2-minute thing there. There's other ways to still have that anticipation and not have the briefcase be used. It's just terrible. Every time they do it, it's annoying.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And then after that, we had the Ty versus Baron match. Baron wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Breezango versus Gable and Benjamin. Gable and Benjamin win.
Mm-hmm.
Was what we thought it was. And then the main event, AJ and Nakamura versus Cammy. I can't believe I actually said that. I did not mean to actually say that.
Wow, it's really catching on, Mike. Really catching on.
Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We got some miscommunication between Kevin and Sami, which leads to issues between them for the whole match. I thought it was strange that these two were on the same page as they ever are at the beginning of the show, and then by the end of the show, it was like practically fuck you.
It was a 0 to 60 kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that's a little disappointing because I'd like to see a little more of a tease up to that. So, a little jarring. I think is the best way to look at that. It didn't work a lot in the continuity of everything. But the Sami promo at the very end, after this whole thing went down and Kevin Owens takes a loss because Sami Zayn took a powder, and basically saying, I'm going to be the champion. I'm going to win this because it's my time. It's my turn. Kevin Owens has had his shot. He's done it. I'm going to do this. Tension between these two. I love these two together. And I think there's plenty of other things they can do away from Shane McMahon and AJ Styles. And I'd love to see them doing that. I'd love to see them as a tag team. I'd love to see them go after the Usos. That would be as interesting, if not more so, than the Bludgeon Brothers at this
and they
point.
are a fantastic tag team.
So I think there's a lot of things that can be done. If you're going to have them, these guys are good against each other too. So I'm not ready to see them split up, but there's a lot of material for them there too. So just because I don't want to see it doesn't mean it's not the best thing to do.
Yeah, that's right.
I just like to do it with a little more subtlety, not just sledgehammers.
You were saying while we were watching that what if next week one of them lays down for the other one, and that would be interesting because then you could have them playing up, that we did that on purpose, the whole being mad at one another thing because we wanted to get you off your game, like get AJ off his game.
Maybe,
but we shall see. I don't think that WWE will do that. Not a thing that we typically cover on this show just because we don't really ever watch it, but I've been following along on Twitter while we've been recording because 205 Live was going to announce a commissioner for their show as well as or a general manager. I don't know which, and what's going on with the title. So they announced Rockstar Spud, formerly of TNA.
Oh yeah, because he signed a little while ago.
Yes, as the new GM for 205 Live, and he announced a 16-person single elimination tournament for a new cruiserweight champion. We love tournaments.
Yes, good.
So I think that's exciting stuff for them, and I don't know if they even have 16 people, so there might be some new people brought in, maybe some NXT guys, maybe a couple of the UK guys, because they're certainly under...
Maybe a returning Neville.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Make that division relevant again.
Mm-hmm. And I think good. There was definitely some thoughts as to what are they going to do with this division now, because Enzo's leaving, getting fired, completely flipped that division on its head. I didn't see a lot of Spud's work in TNA, but people said that he was fantastic, especially on the mic there, that working as an authority figure there. So I'm all for this and looking forward to seeing what they do with that going forward.
Sure.
But after a long 4 days of wrestling, glad to see that it's going to be another month before another pay-per-view. We got Elimination Chamber towards the end of February for Raw, and then SmackDown has Fastlane at the beginning of March. So plenty of time to build up over that period of time. And anything else that you want to add in?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us once again for this week's episode. We'll keep you up to date as to when our next episode will be, because Kevin is going to have a nice change in his life coming up as he introduces a new member of his family.
That's true. There shouldn't be any issues with next week.
Well,
so
even if
we'll
there
be
is,
okay.
you guys know why. But congratulations to you for...
Thank you, Michael. I successfully reproduced.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Make sure that you guys follow us on all of our social media outlets. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MissSpots. Always live tweeting along to television and to the pay-per-views. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/MissSpots. You can listen to this podcast in one of many different fashions, such as our website, MissSpotsPodcast.com, or simply MissSpots.com. You can also subscribe on any of the major podcasting services out there: iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, Overcast, Podcast Addict, any of those. Subscribe, and then you can get brand new episodes delivered to the device of your choice every Thursday, free of charge. For Kevin, my name's Mike. We'll catch you guys next week. Good night. Good wrestling.